Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Kelly had been running around the kitchen like a madwoman all morning. The apple pie was baking in the oven. The soup was simmering on the stove. The roast chicken was cooling. The rejuvenating mask was on her face, and her hair was in curlers. Today was a holiday. My husband was returning from a month-long business trip. Johnny was a trucker, so their whole family life, and it's been nearly 10 years, consisted of holidays like this. Kelly missed her husband incredibly much, so she always prepared for his arrival very carefully. After all, in a couple of weeks of rest, she had to have time for everything. To talk, to admire, to saturate herself with each other's energy. At last the key in the door turned, and a painfully familiar voice was heard from the corridor. "Coo-coo, my bunny. I'm home." Kelly squealed and ran to him and hung on his neck, and they kissed passionately and couldn't open their embrace for a long time. Johnny looked around at his treasure and was in awe. She was smart, with her hair done, ruddy, and couldn't take his eyes off her. In the kitchen, as usual on his arrival, the table was full of treats. Johnny, after drinking with Kelly and eating his dinner, leaned back blissfully in his chair and said, "Kelly, you're my gold. You're worth your weight in gold. That's the kind of wife you can only dream of. Come here, my baby. I've missed you so much." He picked up his wife in his arms and carried her into the bedroom. The longed-for family members didn't sleep a wink until morning, enjoying each other. They lounged in bed until almost noon, not wanting to open their embrace, when suddenly Johnny's cell phone rang. He reluctantly picked it up, then jumped up from the bed and started cursing. "Got it. What mile? Where are the bills of lading? Are you nuts? I just got off a flight. I just had time to spend the night. I'm not yelling. I got it. I got it. I'll be right there." The irritated man threw the phone on the chair in frustration. A worried Kelly asked, "Johnny, why are you like this? Did something happen?" He sat down beside his wife, stroked her hair gently, and said, "It happened, Kelly. I'm going on the road again today." The woman jumped up in horror. "How come? How come? You just got here, didn't you? No rest at all. And you're driving again. What is this?" Johnny tried to reassure his wife. "I'm angry myself. My partner got sick. He was taken away with appendicitis, so they asked me to take over for him. I don't like riding in someone else's car. And I'm very tired, but you know I can't refuse. Otherwise the chief will throw me out. Where will I find such a lucrative business? By the way, here's the last voyage. Say, isn't that bad? I'll go a couple more times, and we'll go to the sea with you. Yes, my fish. We'll swim, sunbathe, and no flights." It was with a heavy heart that Kelly saw her husband off on his voyage, and she was uneasy and worried. They said goodbye for a long time. Kelly cried and wept. "Johnny, don't go. Say no. I've got a bad feeling about this. I'm afraid for you. My heart is not in place." The man even got angry. "Come on, don't whine. You'll really get into trouble. Everything will be all right. It's a short trip. I'll be back in a week before you know it. All right, sweetie, I'm off. I'll miss you. I got my thermos and sandwiches. Kisses." Kelly was restless all night, unable to sleep at night. Normally Johnny would text her often, wishing her a good night and a good morning, but not a word. She called him 200 times, but the caller was unavailable. At night she had a strange dream. Johnny was flying into some abyss. She called out to him, but he only drifted farther and farther away. The woman woke up in a cold sweat and could not sleep a wink. The next day was her shift. Kelly was working as a nurse on the ward. After her morning rounds, the phone rang in her pocket. It was Johnny. Kelly grabbed the phone in a jiffy. "Johnny, did you make it? Is everything all right? For some reason I haven't been able to call you since last night." But suddenly a dry, cold voice answered her instead of Johnny. "Is that Kelly? I have some bad news for you. Your husband was in a car accident and died at the scene. I'm so sorry for your loss." Kelly dropped the call. Tears poured down her face. She cried out and floated down the wall. Everything that happened next was like a horror movie. The identification in the morgue, the death certificate, and then the funeral, the wake, the condolences. The woman was drugged full of sedatives and still sobbed inconsolably. She was howling at night, still waiting for Johnny to come back from his trip. She thought the key was about to turn, and she could hear the painfully familiar, husky voice. "Cuckoo, my bunny, I'm home." The woman slucked in Johnny's t-shirt, wrapped herself in it, and inhaled his scent. She howled into her pillow again, realizing that Johnny would never come back. Kelly often recalled her childhood and the happy years she spent with Johnny, going through her photo album. Kelly grew up in an orphanage. She was dropped off in a regular wicker basket when she was only 5 months old. No note, no documents, nothing was found with her. Her name was given to her at the orphanage. Children from families who were placed in orphanages suffered greatly, had a hard time adjusting, and often ran away, unable to accept the terrible reality. For Kelly, who had never known home comfort or warmth, these dreary walls were familiar. Kelly was a smiling, contactable girl, which is why the teachers and nurses liked her for her calm and kind character. Even the cruel and angry boys did not hurt her much. She was so bright and naive. After graduating from the orphanage, she was advised to go to college to study medicine. Kelly got in on the first try and graduated with flying colors. Our heroine met her husband at work. She was dressing him when he cut his arm. One thing led to another. They got to talking. Johnny complimented the nurse clumsily and tried to joke, but the girl was very wary at first. For some reason, she disliked truckers. It was not for nothing that they were said to have a bride in every town and several families at the same time. Moreover, he was 10 years older than her, married before, and even had a daughter, Lisa, who grew up with her mother after a difficult divorce. But the man was stubborn and persistent, and still got his way. He brought Kelly nice gifts from trips, pampered her with expensive sweets, and bought her flowers. Slowly, little by little, Kelly, without noticing it, fell in love with Johnny, and they had a modest wedding. Kelly really wanted children, but how much she and Johnny tried, she somehow never got pregnant. Then the girl got worried and decided to thoroughly examine herself. The doctor's verdict killed her: infertility. She was exhausted until Johnny returned from a trip, crying into the pillow every night, and was afraid that her husband would divorce her after learning the terrible truth. Nevertheless, the girl did not lie and twist. She was not of that character. She told Johnny everything as it was. "That's it, Johnny. I'll never have a baby with you. I'm barren. The doctor said it was because I was sick a lot in the orphanage and nobody treated me properly. I'm not a woman. I'm just an empty shell. So if you decide to get a divorce, I understand everything." And she burst into bitter tears, covering her face with her hands and burning with shame. To her surprise, Johnny hugged her tightly and held her to him. "You're stupid. I'll love you with or without kids. It doesn't matter to me at all. When I saw you, that's it. I fell in love forever. And I don't need anyone else. Do you know why I divorced my ex-wife? Because she bore me a child, but she wasn't a woman at all. She wasn't a woman at all. She was just waiting for me to go away, so she could go on the rampage and get drunk with men. I didn't believe it at first. I thought it was an accusation. But when I dragged her out of her bunk twice myself, and her little daughter began to tell me that uncles were sleeping over at our house, I could not stand it. I filed for divorce. I wanted to take Lisa to myself, but the court sided with the mother, and my job, you know, to raise a child alone is not very suitable. It's different with you. I can see and feel how you miss me, how you are waiting for me. And so am I. That's how we'll live, you for me and I for you. That's all I need." From that day on, the subject never came up in their family, and they lived with Johnny for 10 happy years. And now that Johnny is gone, what is there to live for? For whom? For myself, I still haven't learned. And what if to find out how their daughter Johnny, Lisa, lives with such a mother? After all, even to her ex-husband at the funeral did not come. Maybe she needs some help. You never know, reasoned Kelly, and decided by all means to find the girl and ask how she was doing. It turned out to be quite easy. An acquaintance at the passport office helped, and the woman quickly learned everything she needed to know. When she arrived at her ex-wife's address, Kelly hesitantly pressed the bell. Then again, but even after knocking on the door, no one opened it. A neighbor came out at the noise and asked sternly, "Woman, who are you going to see?" Kelly babbled, "I'd like to talk to Cindy. Do you know if she's home? She has a daughter, Lisa. Her father, Johnny, my husband, died recently. So I was wondering what's wrong with the little girl. Is she all right? My husband said the ex-wife seemed to like to drink and go out." Her neighbor smirked and pushed the door open, and it gave way easily. She gestured for Kelly to follow her. The unbearable stench of rotten food, liquor, and cigarettes wafted up her nose. Kelly recoiled in horror. A vulgarly painted, middle-aged woman was snoring profusely on the couch, wearing high heels and a leather jacket. Everywhere was a mess, though it was obvious that this apartment had once been expensively furnished. The girl was nowhere to be seen. The neighbor said sadly, summing up what she saw, "This is how our Cindy lives. Our daughter was taken to an orphanage a year ago, and we called the guardianship authorities ourselves, because it was impossible to watch the child suffer in such terrible conditions without crying. Men come here in torrents day and night, drinking and partying till morning. It's common for Cindy. She's like that when she's young. It can't be helped. And I remember Johnny. He was a good man, a family man. Cindy had a way with him, even though she was a bit of a cheat, and when they got divorced, she went off the rails. So I don't think we'll be able to talk to her. She won't wake up till tomorrow." Kelly was horrified by what she saw. What a nightmare. "Do you know which orphanage the girl was taken to? I'd like to visit her after all." The neighbor ran to her room and brought out a piece of paper with the address. "There you go." I wrote it down. I thought maybe Cindy would sober up, come to her senses, and want to pick up her daughter. No, she wouldn't. She doesn't even care about her. When Kelly had a shift change and 2 days off, she decided to go to the Carnation Orphanage and check on Lisa. In the manager's office, a woman explained for a long time who she was and why she needed to meet with the girl, because she, in fact, no one. Finally, Lisa was brought into the office. Kelly looked at her and marveled. She looked exactly like Johnny. She looked about 13 years old. Lisa was tall, sturdy, with thick, curly, pitch-black hair and brown eyes. The little girl was frowning and looking at Kelly sideways. The woman exhaled and began the difficult conversation first. "Hello, Lisa. You don't know me. I'm Kelly, your daddy's second wife. He died recently. He was killed in an accident. Johnny told me a lot about you, and he's been worried lately about not being able to see you. I don't want anything from you. I just want to help you. Sincerely, just in a human way. How do you live here? Do they hurt you a lot?" Lisa looked at her unkindly, with a squint, and blurted out, "It's very interesting, but how can you help me? My father's dead. My mother's a drunkard. Or will you adopt me and take me home with you? I don't believe in such fairy tales. They only take little ones to raise them for themselves. And they don't take people like me. My character is complicated, and I have a lot of problems. How do I live here? I'm living here like a nightmare, Auntie. Like a nightmare, because I'm nobody, and nobody needs me. But you do not understand it." Tears came to Lisa's eyes, and she turned away. Kelly was taken aback by the girl's violent reaction, but pulled herself together and answered calmly, "You think for nothing that I can't understand your anger and resentment toward the world. I, Lisa, am also an orphan, only unlike you, who at least once knew what home comfort and love of parents is. I was thrown to the gates of the orphanage as an infant. I basically lived half my life already, and still do not know who I am and where I am from. So Lisa, I understand you like no one else. That's why I came. If you want to communicate, be friends, I'm all for it. And if not, I'll leave. It's your right. And you're wrong about adoption too. I have no children of my own. My husband is dead. I feel bad and lonely alone. And I wouldn't mind raising such a pretty girl who looks just like her father. You think, do not hurry, and I'll come to you in a couple of days when you have a day off from work. And also here, this is for you. You can open it later. From the bottom of my heart. Lisa suddenly looked at her with very different eyes. They were no longer angry and distrustful. The girl said quietly, "I'll be waiting for you, Aunt Kelly, come," and ran off to her room. The headmistress sighed. "And I told you nothing good would come of it. Lisa is a very difficult girl to deal with. I don't think you'll be able to get her to like you and rehabilitate her." Kelly smiled and replied, "We'll see. I gave her a phone. Make sure they don't take it away, because I'm an orphan myself and I know what it's like here. This is the first step to getting closer. I hope she will call me herself. Goodbye." "I will not say goodbye. I think Lisa and I will be leaving here together soon." The supervisor shook her head. Blessed my God. With such a trashy girl, she decided to tie her life together. Oh, she's going to have such a hard time with her. Why should she hang herself with such a yoke? I don't understand. Within an hour, happy Lisa was calling Kelly. "Aunt Kelly, thank you. I've never had such a great phone. And the makeup is great. Super straightforward. You come see me again. I'd be happy to." The woman smiled to herself. Well, the first ice is broken, and then somehow I will establish communication. She did not regret one bit that almost all the money her husband brought from the voyage she put into this phone for Lisa. May the child be happy. After all, Johnny rarely spoiled her, and Cindy was out of the question. Slowly, little by little, Kelly and Lisa became best friends. 6 months later, the woman adopted the girl and moved her in. She was very happy. Now the apartment was no longer cold and empty. There was children's laughter, working TV, or playing youth music. Kelly spared no expense for Lisa, bought her fancy clothes, let her get tattoos and manicures, run with the girls to the movies and cafes. Even when the girl brought outright bad marks, Kelly tried not to scold her, talk peacefully and calmly. She understood. Aggression is not good. At first, Lisa behaved well too, and until about 16, they got along just fine. The girl tried to do something nice for Kelly too. She tried to bake a cake or cook a meal. They had secret conversations in the evenings, discussing women's things. Kelly got a new lease on life. She now had someone to rush home to, someone to worry about, the very meaning of life. And at last, she felt at least a little bit like a mother. She wished so much that Lisa herself would call her that sometime in the future, appreciating her efforts. But the years went by, and the girl never dared to take that step. But Kelly had no idea how Lisa really felt about her. Even then, in the orphanage, the girl realized that she hated the woman with whom her father lived. After all, if it were not for her, maybe Dad and Mom would have made up, and Mom would not have been drinking and walking around. When she got to her room, she printed out a new phone and a set of cosmetics and wanted to smash it all in anger to pieces. But her shrewd girlfriends immediately began to look at the gifts enviously and cajoled Lisa. "What are you, stupid? Throwing away an expensive new phone? You gotta be smart. Pretend you're a sheep and let her adopt you. You'll be like cheese and butter. And when you're 18, you'll run away from her and you'll be lost. Or else you'll be stuck here, eating mush and gruel." Lisa did just that. At first, she was really happy to get into a warm, cozy home, knew no denials about anything, and behaved roughly to please Kelly. And she didn't change her mind. But of course, there was no question of calling this aunt mother at all. Lisa didn't have any tender feelings for her. The more Lisa grew up, the more insolent she became. She could be sassy sometimes, or answer back sharply. Kelly did not swear, did not reprimand Lisa in time, and in vain, as the girl was more and more out of line. The girl started running to discos, walking until midnight, often being escorted home by different suitors. Then Kelly couldn't take it anymore and began to lecture her. "Lisa, you can't do that. What kind of reputation will you have if you change suitors like a glove? And smoking at your age is not good. You're a girl. It's not nice. It only spoils your health." But she only snapped back, "Oh, come on, Aunt Kelly, don't be a tease. That's right, I'm young, or else I'll end up as an old maid who'll want me later. I've got to get a richer groom now, and a better one." In the end, it all ended very badly. One night, when Lisa was 18, she came home with a big guy, his arms and neck all tattooed. The girl was a little tipsy, and she declared emphatically, "Let me introduce you, Kelly. This is Alex, my fiancé. We're going to stay here for a while. We're in love, you know. I'll make his bed for him. What are we having for dinner? We're starving." From that day on, Kelly had a hard time. This Alex behaved very brazenly, went through drawers and nightstands, and kept asking what area of the apartment and to whom it was registered. Kelly was frightened for herself and quietly ran to the precinct officer, Peter. The woman pleaded with the man, "Peter, honey, help me. My Lisa brought in a big guy with tattoos, and I don't wonder if he's even a criminal. So now he's looking at my apartment. I'm afraid he's going to pull it off. You scare him away, because he's so big. I don't want to mess with him." The policeman promised to help sort it out and came to visit them in the evening. He introduced himself. "Good evening. So we have new tenants, but let's have a look at your documents." Suddenly Alex Mould went looking for his passport, and a second later waved right out the window with his backpack. Just saw him. Everyone was just stunned, and the precinct officer said, "That's what I thought. Judging by the description, it's a crook, nicknamed Swindler, who's been wanted for 6 months. You should be more careful, citizen, and think about who you let in the house. Otherwise, we'll have to decide something about you too. Kelly has custody until she's 18, and she doesn't have to put up with your disgusting behavior right now. Is that clear?" He sternly reprimanded Lisa and left. The girl looked at Kelly frowning. "So you set it up, huh? You kicked Alex out, and now you want to take it out on me. You're such a mother." And she ran off to her room, sobbing. Kelly tried to get through to her, to explain that she wished her well, but all in vain. Lisa shut down, withdrew into herself, and hardly made any contact. The woman urged her to continue her studies, advising her to go to college. But Lisa just freaked out. "I don't want to study. I barely made it through school. And back to your desk again. I want to get married. And you won't let me have a personal life. You won't even let me go out." The situation in the family had become very tense, and Kelly was beginning to regret that she had been so reckless in agreeing to the adoption. She really was impossible to handle at times. But that wasn't the end of it either. Lately, Kelly had begun to notice that Lisa had gained a lot of weight, and she had been eating a lot of pickles and sleeping a lot. Although the woman had no children of her own, but the signs of pregnancy, she, as a medic, knew by heart. So she took Lisa to the gynecologist, even though she resisted. The woman stubbornly resisted to the end. "I don't want to. I won't go. What am I doing there? Let me go." After the examination, it all came out. Lisa was 3 months pregnant. The gynecologist scolded Kelly. "What are you doing? It's high time to get registered. Do not delay. Need an ultrasound to make sure that the fetus is all right. Okay, youth, irresponsible. But you, mommy, had to somehow influence your daughter." Lisa cried and ran out the door, and Kelly began to make excuses. "I'm not a mother at all. I'm Lisa's guardian. She's hard to deal with. Please excuse me." Now I'll try to contact the birth mother and think about what to do next, although she, in my opinion, is not interested in her daughter's fate at all. Kelly rushed to Cindy's house right after the hospital. Everything there was the same, even worse. In the years since they had seen each other, the woman had aged a lot. Her face was waxy and puffy, and she seemed to be soaked in alcohol. Kelly tried to get through to the woman. "Cindy, listen to what I have to say. Lisa, your daughter is pregnant. She probably doesn't know from whom, because she hid everything until the last minute. I don't know what to do now. Maybe you can give us some advice." But the drunkard looked at Kelly for a long time with cloudy, incomprehensible eyes, and then with a hiccup, she asked, "Do you have a drink? The pipes are on fire. I don't know what's going on. I don't give a damn if Lisa's pregnant or not. You're her guardian, so you're gonna have to deal with it. What's it got to do with me?" Kelly couldn't stand it anymore and started screaming. "What kind of mother are you? In all these years, have you never once asked where and how your daughter lives? Is she good or bad? You are a monster." She suddenly jumped up, grabbed a rolling pin from the table, and moved on Kelly. "Get out of my house. Johnny's gone. My daughter too. And now she's gonna teach me how to live. Get out. It's none of your business how I live my life." Kelly was frightened to death and ran outside, her heart racing. What a family. I could barely get away. I guess it really is just my problem now. A terrible scandal broke out at home. Kelly first tried to talk nicely with her daughter. "Lisa, how did this happen? Who is the father of the child? Should we talk to him? What do we do now?" The girl roared, "I don't know. I just started dating Alex recently. I don't know who got me pregnant. I don't want a baby. I want to live for myself. I'm going to get an abortion." And that's it. That's when Kelly got mad. "You're crazy. Look at me. I haven't even had an abortion, and I'm barren. It's very scary, never having children of your own. You'll cripple your whole life. And then you'll be biting your teeth, but it'll be too late. No abortion. We'll raise the baby. I'll help you. You'll take your baby in your arms, and you'll understand what a blessing it is to be a mother." Lisa muttered, "Such happiness for me, washing diapers and listening to yelling. We'll see about that," and went to her room. Kelly began to prepare hard, taking extra jobs, shifts, to earn more money and to have something to support Lisa and the baby. And the girl in the meantime behaved very brazenly, lying on the couch all day long, demanding bananas, chocolate, and various goodies, while not even bothering to wash the dishes after herself, let alone cook dinner for the tired and exhausted Kelly. At the appointed time, a healthy and strong boy was born, named Mike. But Lisa showed no interest in him at all. She could sleep through the night like a dead woman, ignoring the cries of the baby. And when Kelly started waking her up to breastfeed, she got terribly annoyed. "I'm sick of it. Yelling and yelling. Can I get any sleep at all or not? This is crazy. We'll have to tie up the breasts, let her eat formula. Otherwise, she'll stretch out. Who'll want such a floppy udder afterwards? I told you we should have had an abortion." Kelly was amazed at Lisa's callousness. How could she not love her own child? She adored Mike, rocked him at night, and comforted him. The baby, as if feeling love and care, fell asleep peacefully. No matter how Kelly tried to hold Lisa responsible and scolded and explained, it was all useless. One day, Kelly was on the clock when she got a call from a concerned neighbor. "Kelly, here's the thing. There's a baby in your apartment that's been screaming for hours. We rang the doorbell and no one answered. Maybe something happened to your foster daughter. You never know." The woman went all white. "Oh, my God. I'll be right there. I wish Lisa and Mike were all right." She rushed home faster than the wind and with trembling hands opened the lock. In the room, in his crib, Mike was all wet, crying, hungry, and hoarse. Neither Lisa nor her things were anywhere to be found. She swaddled the baby and began feeding him formula. The baby greedily swallowed it, just choking. It looked like he hadn't eaten in hours. The poor baby warmed up in Kelly's arms and finally fell asleep. She carefully moved him to the crib, went into the kitchen, and only then did she find a note on the refrigerator. "I can't take it anymore. Don't come looking for me. Know that I've always hated you. I had Mike, and I don't want him either. Babysit him yourself. It's all because of you. I wish I'd stayed in an orphanage." Kelly rushed to the closet where she kept the money she had set aside to live, and it was empty. The woman sat down, put her arms around her head, and wept bitterly in despair. Kathy, a neighbor, came in quietly, saw what had happened, hugged Kelly, began to calm her down. "Well, it'll all work out somehow. Don't tear yourself up." Kelly sobbed. "Here, read this. I took her out of the orphanage. I put all my heart and soul into it, and it turns out she hated me all her life. Why? Kathy, why? I'm not a homewrecker. When I started dating Johnny, he was already divorced. So much for gratitude for everything. I'm so hurt. My heart is in pieces. And I dumped Mike too. How am I supposed to be with him now? What about my job? Oh, I'm an idiot. The headmistress told me I'd cry over that trashy girl, and I didn't believe it. Yes, the situation. The only way out is to go on maternity leave, get custody again, and deprive Lisa of her maternity rights." Kelly howled again. "Can you believe it? Lisa also stole all the money from the house. I had some change in my wallet, just for a couple of days. She knew I was saving for her and Mike, and she stole it anyway. How am I supposed to live now? And where did she run off to, you fool? Doesn't she have anyone? Except her alcoholic mother, who hasn't needed her for ages." The neighbor sighed. "Sadly as it may be, Lisa has followed in her footsteps. Her genes are bad. All she does is go out and party. You had nothing to do with it, Kelly. It's a pity about Mike. He's such a good kid, and he's already without his mother. Don't worry about the money. I'll lend you some, and you'll get a maternity allowance for Mike. It's not much, of course, but you can live on it." So they did. Kelly went on maternity leave and started babysitting Mike. Of course, when you're in your 40s, it's hard to stay up all night, but still, in spite of all the difficulties and lack of money, Kelly was happy because she had wanted a baby all her life. With Lisa, she never felt a return. The girl did not call her mother, did not say that she loved her, or that she was at least grateful. And Mike reached out to her, hugged her with his little arms, smiled at her toothless mouth, and even babbled something resembling mother. Kelly melted and kissed her chubby cheeks that smelled like milk. She often walked with Mike in the new playground next door and ran into a respectable man about her age. He too was babysitting and walking the little girl. Surprisingly, the man was handling and getting along so well with her that Kelly could only marvel. How did he do it? Usually men are afraid of little babies like that. Kelly couldn't stand it and complimented her. "I admire you, honestly. You are so good. You get along so well with your daughter. Bravo. My name is Kelly. I often walk here with my granddaughter, Mike, and watch you. I'm sorry." The man glowed. "And I'm Jacob, and this is my princess, Emily. And how not to love her? She's my only light in the window. My wife, Betty, unfortunately died in childbirth. I still can't get used to it. We were too late to have a baby. We kept putting it off. Career, business, and for nothing. When Betty got pregnant, all the doctors tried to dissuade her from having the baby. She had a congenital heart defect, and she was too old to give birth. But my wife was adamant and decided to have the baby in spite of everyone. So, I don't even know what to do now. I'm looking for a nanny for Emily. There's no other way. Business can't stand idle for long, but cannot pick up a candidate, then the young and windy, the very old age, which themselves need care. Why are you always with your grandchild? Does your daughter work?" Kelly sighed. "I wish. My situation is no easier. My husband was a truck driver, died in an accident. He had a family before me. And my daughter, Lisa. So this Lisa's mother turned out to be a drunk and promiscuous person, and the girl was taken to an orphanage. And I, foolishness, took her from there and formalized custody. Only how much I would not do for her. She did not appreciate it. Moreover, fattened the child and left, stealing from the house all of my savings. Now Mike is on me. So that's my unhappy business. Jacob opened his mouth in surprise. Wow, does that happen? It's hard to envy you, of course. Strange, you're such an attractive woman in full bloom, and suddenly a grandson. I can't believe it. Kelly suddenly, without expecting it, suggested. It's getting colder, Mike's crying. It's time to eat, and Emily's getting cranky. Let's go to my place for dinner. I have homemade chicken noodle soup. Jacob agreed. I won't say no. It's been a long time since I've had homemade soup, and I'm sick of the restaurant menu. I don't know if I really like it. I never cook it for her. I take a purchased mix for her age. Half an hour later, everyone was eating dinner. Jacob was eating soup, and Emily was smearing porridge on her plate, tapping merrily with her spoon. Mike, as usual, ate everything, and there was no problem with feeding. He was like a real man and had an excellent appetite. Jacob thanked me for lunch and made a counteroffer. Now it's my turn. I invite you to my mansion in the country, where my parents live. Fresh air, nature, the kids are only good for them. I'm expecting you and Mike on Saturday. I'll pick you up. It is amazing. Usually the boys do not really like to be friends with the girls, and here is such an idyll. They get along, share toys, babble something in their own way. Kelly prepared for Saturday more thoroughly than ever before. Since Johnny's death, it was as if other men no longer existed for her, and she hardly spent any money on herself, only the bare necessities, turning all her attention to Lisa. And here she suddenly looked at herself in a mirror with completely different eyes. My dear mother, who did I look like? My hair is gone. My hair is the wrong color, and my clothes are out of fashion. Kelly ran to her neighbor's house with Mike in her arms. Kathy, help me out. I was invited by such a man to visit me on Saturday, and I looked at myself and I could cry. I used to be a big deal when I was a Johnny, remember? You're God's hairdresser. Make me look my old beauty. The neighbor was stunned. How about that? I'm glad you're finally interested in a man. We're going to make you a sweetheart in no time. Okay, put Mike in the walker and give him some more toys, and let's get started. 2 hours later, Kelly was transformed. The rich auburn hair color Kathy dyed her, and the trendy cascade haircut really suited her. The nourishing mask and gentle manicure refreshed her and made her look even younger and more appealing. Kathy rummaged through her closet and pulled out some very nice dresses and suits, waving her hand. Whatever you want. I don't mind for a case like this. You have to get your personal life together, don't you? How's Lisa doing? No answer. Kelly became sad. Nothing. No letter, no call. I don't know what to think. She doesn't pick up the phone. The answering machine goes off. She's got a heart of stone, doesn't she? How can you forget that you have a son? I don't understand her. Kathy shook her head. Yes, just like her mother. She's just as slutty and shameless. That's all right. You've got Mike now. If you bring him up right from the cradle, I think he'll grow up to be a great guy. All right, go get ready. Wait, what about Mike? Are you taking him on a date with you too? Maybe I could babysit him for a couple of hours. Kelly smiled. Well, it's not really a date, to be honest. Jacob has a young daughter too, and he and Mike get along well. So it's such an adult-child vacation. I just like Jacob a lot, to be honest. He's so, and smart, and educated, and gets along so well with my daughter. I'm having so much fun with him. You do not think we have nothing at all with him, but I really want him to like me. I don't know why. On Saturday, Jacob was waiting for Kelly in the driveway, and he helped her put Mish's stroller in the car and get in. He thought to himself, "Damn, what a beautiful woman she is. I can't take my eyes off her. Too bad she wasn't mine." They drove to the countryside. But the picnic really disappointed Kelly. It was all about Father Jacob, who greeted them very coolly and addressed Kelly in an emphatically formal and dry manner. In the midst of the holiday, she finally understood why. A gorgeous platinum blonde drove up to the cottage in a cool foreign car. She was all like the cover of the magazine. Chiseled, silicone, and glamorous diva. It turned out to be Jacob's fiancée, Alice. She worked as a leading specialist in some well-known media company, looked down on everyone, and communicated only on secular topics. She glimpsed Kelly, raised an eyebrow, and asked, "Jacob, who is this? Did you finally find a nanny for Emily? That's great. But why is there another kid with her? I don't get it, do I?" The man replied, "Let me introduce you, Alice. This is Kelly. She's a friend of mine. We go for walks together with the kids. She has Mike the same age as Emily. Look how great they are together." Alice faked a semblance of a smile, more like a grin, and squeezed out herself. "That's very nice. But from now on, try not to bring strangers into our family circle." The man protested angrily. "I think this is my house, and I get to decide who I bring here and who I don't. That's it. That's it." The cunning Alice immediately retreated, realizing that she had overreacted and babbled. "No, honey, don't be angry. I'm very fond of kids too. It's just so unexpected." Kelly's mood soured, and she asked Jacob quietly, "Call me a cab, please, Mike, and I have to go home." The man replied in surprise, "Kelly, why so early? Or are you offended by Alice?" "Don't be. She didn't mean it. My chauffeur will take you now. Don't worry. It was nice spending time with you. See you on the set. Bye, Mike." Once home, Kelly fed and put Mike to bed, then called a neighbor. "Kathy, are you busy? Can you come in for a minute? I'm so sick." The women sat down in the kitchen. Kathy, burning with curiosity, asked, "Well, Kelly, tell us, don't drag it out. How'd it go? You don't look cheerful at all, do you? You didn't like it." Kelly couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears on her friend's shoulder. "That's it. Jacob's father was talking through his teeth to me and showing me that I was an extra at this party. And then the bride showed up without a moment's notice. You should have seen her, her lips sticking out. Her breasts must be a size 5, and she's got a rhinestone manicure. I can't compete with her. And on top of that, she humiliated me by thinking I was Betty's nanny and surprised I had another kid. Can you believe that? So I got upset, took Mike, and went home. I tried so hard to make him like me, and he didn't even pay attention to me. I'm so hurt." Kathy tried to reassure her friend. "Listen, Kelly, this is the way out. You really should offer to babysit. First of all, you can earn money. And secondly, you can babysit one Mike or two. You do the same thing all day long. Third, you'll get closer to your Jacob. You'll get a closer look. And then you'll see. I think that's one upside." Kelly stopped crying, wiped away her tears, and smiled. "Kathy, you're ahead. And really, where else am I going to find such an income so that Mike won't have to leave him alone? I'll offer him my services tomorrow." The next day, Kelly went for a walk with Mike and, as usual, met Jacob. He was sitting quite sad and playing lethargically with his daughter, answering her inappropriately. The woman said hello. "Good afternoon, Jacob. Hello, Emily. Here's the horse. How are you doing? Are you upset about something?" The man replied sadly. "Good afternoon, Kelly. I do not know what to do. 2 days left before I go to work. You cannot delay longer. And I still have not found a nanny. What to do?" Kelly blushed and began an important conversation. "And I just wanted to talk to you about it. I can babysit. I'm with Mike 24 hours a day anyway. whether I'm alone or not. Besides, Emily knows me, loves me, and it's easy for me. And it wouldn't hurt to earn some money, to be honest. I can't get much out of my allowance alone. Jacob jumped for joy. Oh, Kelly, I agree. You'll help me out so much. Then I'll arrange for a chauffeur to bring you in early in the morning with Mike and take you home in the evening. Don't worry, I'll pay you handsomely, and I'll be perfectly safe for my daughter. For some reason, I absolutely trust you. That's how they made the arrangement. Kelly started working as a nanny in Jacob's apartment. At first, it was very difficult for her because 2 such small children is not the same as 1. But she gradually got used to it, and after a month she was doing everything on the fly. Emily and Mike got along great, playing and entertaining each other. But after a while, when Jacob was away, Alice began to visit his apartment for no reason at all. She kept trying to get into his office. Twice Kelly caught her there when she ran to the bathroom to wash Emily. When she asked her about it directly, Alice flipped out. It's none of your business. Take care of the children. And mind your own business. I'll take care of my fiancé myself. Kelly apologized and thought to herself, really, it's none of my business. It's better not to confront her. The woman fell head over heels in love with Jacob, even dreaming of him at night. Kelly tried to please him with something homemade and delicious in addition to taking care of the children, and managed to cook soup and fry cheesecakes for dinner. The man was delighted, ate the treats and paid her generously, but it never got any further than that. Jacob was still polite, friendly, and very polite in his communication, and Kelly so wanted him to take her in his arms, hold her and tell her that he loved her too. Moreover, our heroine intuitively, as a woman, felt that he cared about her, only outwardly the man did not show it in any way. Some time later, a terrible scandal broke out in Jacob's apartment. Important documents were missing from the office. He was tearing up and tearing down everything. He was tearing and screaming. Kelly, are you sure you haven't seen the red folder? It was right here in the safe on the top shelf. It wasn't taken anywhere. A frightened Kelly excused herself. Oh, please, I never go into your office. What am I supposed to do there? My route, the nursery, the kitchen, and the bathroom. Maybe you yourself moved it somewhere and forgot. Just as Alice arrived, Jacob began to ask her, Sweetheart, the documents are missing from the safe. Do you know where they are? Someone must have stolen them. She smiled wryly and answered, looking at the nanny. I'm not implying anything, of course, but there's no one here but Kelly. So you make up your own mind. The enraged host shouted in Kelly's face. She's right. You're the only one here. Pity. I thought better of you. I'm afraid we'll have to refuse your services. Offended and insulted this time, Kelly did not keep silent and answered proudly. I'm sorry to part with Emily. I'm very fond of her. But after this humiliation, I won't stay here 1 minute. Mike and I are leaving. Let that be on your conscience. Goodbye. I thought the best of you too. Kelly came home with Mike and burst into tears. She was very upset. How could he? Why did he believe that obnoxious Alice and not her? After all, she did everything for him, tried so hard, and he, all, to hell. We must get rid of this flighty major. It's true they say that the rich have no shame and no conscience. The woman became depressed, almost never left the house, and concentrated entirely on her grandson. She kissed his heels, tickled him, made a goat trees, and whispered, And we don't need anyone, do we, Mike? Your mother is missing. Jacob is a scoundrel, and you're all I've got left, my sweetheart, my joy, and my solitude. The baby laughed, hugged her, and babbled something in his baby language. Meanwhile, Jacob was having a hard time. Emily was cranky and crying. The babysitter was still needed, and most importantly, with Kelly gone, the apartment was suddenly so lonely and empty that it was a wolf's porch. There was absolutely nothing to be happy about. He was so used to having this gentle, sensitive woman by his side, to having a hearty dinner waiting for him at home, to having a quiet, well-groomed daughter that he did not know what to grab onto. Not only that, he missed Kelly so much that in his free moments away from work, he thought only of her. And Jacob couldn't even look at Alice now for some reason. She was so artificial and fake. She was not at all interested in Jana. She didn't even hide it. And suddenly Jacob realized that there was no point in building a relationship with a man if he was not going to become the mother of his daughter. What was next? How could they ever live at all? One thing was bugging the man. Why would Kelly take the damn folder? After all, she was a nurse and had nothing to do with business in general. What was she going to do with those documents? Suddenly, it hit him. A fool. Idiot. There are hidden surveillance cameras. I ordered them to be installed myself, and I forgot all about it. Jacob jumped up like he was in heat and ran to watch the video. What he saw there shocked him. Here's Alice sneaking into his office, taking that very folder and hiding it behind her bosom. Here's Kelly, walking by with Emily, asking her what she was doing there. Now, a few days later, Alice walks into his office again and takes the other papers out of his desk, exactly the same way she hides them and leaves. Kelly sees everything too, but stays quiet and continues to play with the children. The man immediately called Alice. "Sweetheart, you could come over now." "Yes, it's urgent. I have a surprise for you. You're gonna love it." Alice went to her fiancé in high spirits. It's finally right. He probably wants to ask him to marry him. That's great. Everything went according to plan. And the money earned, and got rid of this stubborn babysitter. And the girl, when she grows up, in England in a private school away, and live the high life. But when she entered the office, there were security officers and an investigator sitting there. Alice froze for a second on the threshold, but she was a great actress, so she smiled charmingly and asked, as if nothing had happened, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. What is the occasion for which we are gathered here?" Jacob entered and answered, "Hi, honey. We decided to invite you to the premiere of the film. By the way, you're starring in it. Are you ready to watch?" Alice stared at the screen incomprehensibly and didn't blink. When the video ended, Jacob clapped his hands. "Bravo. You did a great job as a spy. You lied to the innocent nanny. You got on my good side. Why would you do that? Who are you really? There's no point in denying it. Otherwise, this tape will go to the prosecutor's office right now." Alice was really frightened. "Don't go to the prosecutor's office. I'll tell you everything. I work for your competitors at Global. They were the ones who suggested that I do all this so that I could ruin your company in the construction tender by making it bankrupt. They paid me a lot of money, so I took it." Jacob was shocked. "What about love and intimacy and all that? Or is that also part of the plan?" Alice smiled. "Well, why not? I was combining business with pleasure. I'm sorry, it just happened." Here the investigator intervened. "All right, you have 24 hours to leave the country for good. Otherwise, there's going to be a big problem." "You got it." Alice did not need to repeat it twice, and she rushed to the car, glad that she got off so easy. Jacob took Emily and drove over to Kelly's house. She was just taking Mike for a walk in the playground. When she saw Jacob, the woman frowned, started to put her grandson back in the stroller, and was about to go somewhere else. She clearly did not want to see him, but the man resolutely blocked her way. "Kelly, please don't go. I need to talk to you seriously." But the woman waved her hands and quickened her pace. "Fire me, please. I've listened to enough for the last time. I've had enough. We have nothing to talk about, and it's time for Mike to eat." The man was running after her with the baby in his arms. Kelly was determined and almost started running too. But then Jana suddenly started crying a lot. Kelly's heart clenched, and she stopped and turned around. The little girl pulled her arms toward her, recognizing her, and babbled distinctly, "Mama." Tears rolled down the woman's cheeks automatically. She took the girl in her arms, hugged her, began to kiss her, and whisper, My good one, my darling, how I missed you. Jacob watched this touching picture and knew already, I'm going to beat myself to death. But I'll beg forgiveness and marry Kelly, the best mother and wife I could think of. How could I have been a fool not to notice it before? He lowered his head and said quietly, Kelly, forgive me, you fool. I was so wrong. It wasn't your fault. It turns out it was Alice who set the whole thing up and stole those documents. And not only that, she even worked for the competition and got into my trust just for the right information. I sincerely regret what happened. Kelly replied dryly. I'm not offended by you, and I'm glad it's all cleared up. Is that it? Can I go now? The man worked up the courage and blurted out, No, not all of them. I'm an asshole. Fool. Idiot. I'm sick without you. Come back for good. I need you. Kelly looked at him dumbfounded. Necessary as a babysitter. He answered quietly. No, as a wife. Marry me. I love you. It's only too late to realize it. Do you agree? Kelly trembled. Her heart beat 3 times faster with joy. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she immediately responded. I agree. I fell in love with you the first time I met you, back at the playground, and I kept waiting for you to notice it. Passers-by curiously looked behind an interesting, older couple with children who were confessing their love to each other in the middle of the avenue and having an argument. When Kelly said yes, the onlookers even clapped their hands. Kelly came to her senses, laughed, and told Jacob, Let's go to lunch, and it's time for the kids to go to bed. No more entertaining people here. The man grabbed his daughter in his arms and happily walked beside her. Now everything was going to be all right. He knew it for sure. They had a family dinner, Jacob praising the fish, soup, and cutlets, and then they put the little ones to bed together. The man walked up to Kelly and kissed her passionately. She trembled and responded with tenderness. Trying not to wake the children, they went quietly into the bedroom and closed the door tightly. Such passion and pleasure Kelly had not experienced in years. It was just wonderful. Jacob whispered to her, You are the best. You're a real woman, my sunshine. Kelly was melting like wax in his capable hands. Suddenly, there was a crying sound from the nursery. Both immediately jumped up, hastily dressed, and ran to the children. But as they walked in, they laughed. Mike was holding Emily's finger and babbling something to her in his own way, as if to soothe her so she wouldn't cry. A wedding was soon arranged. They were both elderly, widowers. We decided to celebrate modestly, with our closest people. Kelly, of course, invited Kathy and her husband, as she was the only close friend and neighbor she had. In the midst of celebration, Lisa suddenly appeared in a restaurant. Kelly was stunned and couldn't believe her eyes. The girl looked at the blooming, happy woman who had raised her, who had given her all her soul. Next to the table, a baby carriage. There played and babbled her son, whom she had abandoned. Lisa was terribly ashamed. She walked over to Kelly, took the microphone, and said loudly, Mommy, I'm sorry. I've made a lot of mistakes. I didn't love you. I didn't appreciate you. And I even hated you. I threw my newborn son on you and ran away. I thought I was going to get out of all this and be independent, and I wouldn't need anybody. I wanted to find a rich gentleman as soon as possible, and only when I was abandoned for the 100th time, took advantage of, as a one-time toy, when I howled and climbed up the wall from loneliness and melancholy, I really realized that I deserve it all, that it was all my own fault. Forgive me, my darling. You've done so much for me. I swear I'll make it up to you. I miss my son so much, and I want to raise him on my own. Will you give him to me? There were tears in Lisa's eyes. For the first time, Kelly saw in them not anger and hatred, but sincere remorse. She couldn't stand it, ran to her daughter, hugged her, and whispered, I can't be angry with you. You're my daughter. I'm glad you've come to your senses, and I'm not going to deprive Mike of his mother. Everyone is entitled to make mistakes, as long as you understand. but I have to make sure you've really changed, you know. The baby has to get used to you too. Being a mom is a lot of work, but you will cope. I will help you in this." For the first time, Lisa and Kelly had such a sincere heart-to-heart talk, and it was the first, even if small, step toward love and trust between relatives. After all, it was not the mother who gave birth, but the one who brought up and gave her whole heart to her child. Soon, Kelly moved in with Jacob for good, and the three of them began to live together with Emily. The girl adored Kelly, called her mother, and listened to her. Lisa really changed and lived in Kelly's apartment with her son. A real mom she, of course, did not become at once. There were sleepless nights and tears, and Mike at first confused and called Kelly mom. And Lisa was terribly jealous. But gradually everything calmed down, got better, and now Lisa, kissing her favorite cheeks and toes at night, just shaking with love and adoration for her son, and did not understand why then she left him. All the time she mentally thanked Kelly for her patience, for the fact that she had not given Mike away, and she, Lisa, had not been deprived of her maternal rights. The girl remembered her alcoholic mother, whom she had gone to when she escaped from Kelly, but she, in a drunken stupor, did not even recognize her own daughter. And the only thing she asked was, "Got a drink?" And she remembered all those soulless suitors who swarmed around, wanting only one thing. Only then did she realize how good it had been at home with Kelly, how she truly loved her, forgave her everything. She whispered to her son, "Forgive me, Mike. I'll never be lost again. You're my main treasure." Kelly was perfectly happy too, and knew that Johnny would approve of her in the next world, for she had raised his daughter and grandson, which meant that his line continued. Jacob turned out to be a great husband and a wonderful family man. Kelly often thought and wondered how complicated life was. She, being diagnosed as infertile, had become a mother to so many children. How does that happen?